Peace, peace, shalom. How's everybody doing? I call this one here, be aware of the bullshit. Now, specifically, I'm speaking about the people who want to come and challenge the Israelites and come along with that kemet stuff. Let's explain something. Egypt did not claim all of Africa. The evidence of that is when you go into the record with Senusret in Dynasty 12, when he spoke about the people of Ethiopia. The other issue is the fact that when you go into the record of what happened with Kamos in Dynasty 17 and what he said about the record about him and the Ethiopians. Now, of course, people going to come with the bullshit and then say, well, Ethiopia comes from Ethiops, which means burnt face, so that was inclusive of all of the continent of Africa. But brothers and sisters, when the ancient Egyptians speak about Ta-Siti, they were not talking about all of the continent of what we call Africa today. So let that be noted and understood. Another example, and another case to sit there and bring out and mention and show is the fact that when you're dealing with people talking about that whole Kemet stuff, they flip-flop between Kemet and Africa as a whole, as if one has something to do with the other, which it did not. For instance, when Rome took over Egypt, or that's to say ancient Kemet, in the year 30 BCE, all of Africa was not taken over by the Romans at that particular time. Tanzania was not. The Zulu was not. The people in Western Africa were not. The people in Cameroon were not. So Africa, we have to understand, is a giant continent and is a giant landmass. So what these people with the Kemet stuff come with their bullshit is try to flip-flop between Kemet itself and all of Africa itself. And then when it's convenient with their bullshit, they try to sit there and jump from one to the other. Now, how in the world you going to come with some bullshit and then say that the Bible came out of Kemet, but then at the same token, you're not showing any references of such? There's no Sabbath in Kemet. There's no Passover in Kemet. There is not even any Purim or Hanukkah in Kemet. So what in the world are you talking about saying that the Bible came out of it? You just made absolutely no sense. Another issue is the fact that they try to come with some bullshit by saying ancient Egypt had no slaves. So if they had no slaves and the Bible speaks about slaves and slavery, then where then in the Bible, if it was copied out of Egypt, did that come from? People are making statements without thinking, or they think that other people don't think or will not challenge them on their bullshit. And so therefore, one has to then sit there and know, realize, and understand that there is something wrong with their ideology, that there is something wrong with their concept. Now, when people come with that bullshit by saying, oh, I used to sit there and be with the Hebrew stuff and the Hebrew this and the Hebrew that, but then they ask you a certain question, well, this translation says this, but what about that? That shows you they were never really into the Hebrew stuff. Because if you study the Hebrew language, you want to ask some of the questions that you ask. So you want some bullshit. You lied to yourself by saying, I was with the Hebrews. No, you was not. You ain't know what in the world you wanted to be on. You still searching for something. So when Egypt works for the moment, let's go there. If Africa works then let's work there. But you're not realizing that the people in Africa, let's say for instance, the Igbo, they say they come from another land outside of Nigeria. The people of the Jukun, they also say that they come from another place outside of Nigeria of today. The Ashanti say that they migrated there from another land. The people called the Ga that live in Ghana, they say that they come from another land outside of there. The Fulani, they state that they migrated to the lands that they are in now. The Yoruba state that they came from what you call Northern Africa. So therefore, we have to know and understand that when studying something in reference about a people within a particular continent, you cannot study it with a bullshit tunnel vision by looking at it through the eyes of Kemet. You cannot understand Africa by looking through Kemet. That is some bullshit that the colleges have been presenting to us as a people by presenting Professor such and such, Doctor such and such. And so what winds up happening, brothers and sisters, is that people begin to sit there and cock ride, to penis ride these particular men and sit there and say that they must be the, look at his video, man. And so therefore you have yet to make a video perhaps. Maybe you have not studied enough to show yourself approved to sit there and write a book. So you sit there and you cock ride somebody else's scholarship. And that's not good. That's not a good thing. Because then what happens? Did you pick up the baton and keep on moving? Or did you just sit on your ass You're behind, and just say, you know what, somebody else is going to sit there and do it, or somebody else did it, and so forth and so on. Now, how in the world you going to come with some bullshit saying that, according to some people, Dr. Ben, whose name is Joseph Ben Yochanan, and then say he didn't deal with some Hebrew bullshit when his name itself is Hebrew? See, this is what happens when people don't deal, one, with humility, two, with linguistics, and three, with understanding. Because you so ready to try to denounce somebody else, you realize you didn't get your own stuff in check first. That's a problem. Another thing that people come with their bullshit is that pacifist spirit that a lot of people have. You know, when you go in the Bible and you read about what happened in Numbers 31, the Israelites, was avenging people. When you read that, it's called avenge. That means you was taking responsibility for your people in the military fashion. We, the black man, woman, and child in the Western Hemisphere, to a great extent, been bullshitted so much to where we think when the people fight for themselves and avenge against their oppressors that there's something wrong with that. Oh, Moses killed a man. No, Moses killed an oppressor who was beating on his brother, if you know the situation and the story correctly. That's what happened. But because we have been so pacified and feminized as black men in the Western Hemisphere, we think somebody standing up for their own people is the wrong thing to do. This is why you see niggas in Baltimore standing in front of the police as a wall against the people who are supposed to have been rioting and the police. That's that pacified punk spirit that we've been bullshitted with. Now, when you are sitting up there and presenting a case, and then you're saying to the person, well, can you show me the writing of such and such, or the record of such and such? And then you reference, for instance, the Brooklyn Papyrus, 35.1446. Look that up. You see about Seneptisi and Sobek-hotep III. But see, they didn't expect Israelites to get that deep into anything about Egypt. You understand? Because while they keep on saying that Israelites only read the Bible, it comes to a point to where that's the one book these other people with their bullshit don't read. Now, getting back to the point with the Brooklyn Papyrus, it gets into the fact that ancient Egypt had Hebraic people or Hebrew people who were slaves. So, a lot of these scholars that they talk about don't even sit there and address that, don't even get into that, because they have a determination already made. This is why they come with their bullshit asking black brothers and sisters, Hebrew brothers and sisters, what is the difference between you and the white Jews? Well, if you claiming Kemet, brother or sister, I can ask you what's the difference between you and the white man and the Arab man over in the land of Egypt. Because the scriptures tell you why the house of Israel's not there. Is there any papyrus from Ptah-hotep or anybody else that explains why the true Egyptians are not in their land? Or does the Hebrew prophet speak on it in Ezekiel chapter 29 and Ezekiel chapter 30? So the couple of things that has to be noted and pointed out is that ancient Egypt ain't claim all of Africa. And then when they try to go and try to hop on that train, the Kemet train, they got to sit there and wind up being derailed by having to jump into Ethiopia one time, or we're going to go and talk about the Nok people another time, or we're going to talk about the other people the other time. You can't sit there and play hopscotch and play games like that, man. If you into Kemet, be Kemet. If that's you. If it ain't you, then the pharaohs probably fly your damn head, man, trying to sit there and perpetrate a fraud. You understand? Stop playing games, man. And so, now, once it comes right down to it, I have recently had a discussion online. It's interesting because I had a discussion about this kind of subject matter in person also not too long ago. And it was on the same premise. Well, can you show me this and can you show me that? The people who keep asking you when you show a reference or or refer them to something and they ask you to show it to them means that this person does not ever intend to look it up themselves. And they've never been exposed to that particular type of information. So then when you sit there and show it to them or tell them where they can go and see it for themselves, they ain't never going to sit there and look for that because they don't want to, because they want to continue in their bullshit. And if you sit there and drop the ball in their court by saying, here you go, Kemet, you are on trial. Here, look up the record from this point of view. They're not going to do it because then they realize they can't continue with their bullshit. And when you are a bullshitter, damn it, you don't want it to stop. Because that's who you are in character. All right, y'all. Peace.